Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for coming. This is the November 25th Board of Directors meeting where we will vote on adopting the 2020 budget. 4 members of the board are here. Ron Wallace is not here. He couldn't make it tonight. So we will proceed. The next thing we need to do is the notice of the meeting was posted on November 21st, 2019. And in our board packets, we have the minutes for the prior meeting, which was October 21st, 2019. Everybody had a chance to go over them? Motion to accept them as read? All in favor? Thank you. We're going to go a little bit out of order tonight, so the next thing we're going to do is the treasurer's report. Sarah?
Squeaks at him and I'll talk to you. So anyway, first off, I want to make a motion to approve the August and September financials so we can get them posted on the website tomorrow.
All in favor?
Thank you. Okay. As of October 31st, we have $834,000 in our operating account, of which $481,000 is invested, and we have earned on that so far $2,200. While it's sitting there, it's earning something for us. In our reserve account, we have $1,346,000 due from homeowners, $9,700, so that's come down. And prepayments are up, where people pay their dues a little bit in advance, and that's $68,000. I have not had a chance to review the October financials, so I'll be doing that in the next week or two after Thanksgiving, and we'll approve them the next go around. Please, that we're going to be talking about the budget and approving that. Remember, in December, after you pay your December dues, you need to go to your bank, change your auto pay or whatever, unless you're having your payments made automatically by Castle, to change the amount at the bank. We go through this every January, people paying the wrong amount. Even if you pay it in December, it has to be the new amount, not the old amount. So please remember to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, welcome. The compilation of the next year's budget is part mathematics, part advanced accounting, and part gazing into the future, all the while keeping an eye on the bottom line, which is the dues change. Your board extends our sincere thanks to Gary Best for his hours of work on this year's presentation. Gary is considerably under the weather tonight, and Beverly Baker, chair of the Finance Committee, has worked with Gary in getting the budget presentation put together and has graciously volunteered to present the budget tonight. So please silence your cell phones. And Beverly, it's all yours.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to acknowledge all the work Gary put in. Gary put in many hours working at this while he was sick, and so I just want to acknowledge that work on him. There will be time for Q&A afterwards, so if you do have questions, we'll address them after the presentation. This slide is familiar. We're working on a future that we are a sound community, one that is good for the residents and attractive for people to come here, and that's been our goal. And consistent with what Gary has done regarding he's working on the contracts committee, and he's been trying to do educational things along. So we created this slide to help understand what the South Shore Falls budget process is. It's not picking numbers out of a hat. The whole budget process starts by Florida Statute 720, which defines how we can operate in the state of Florida. And from that we get homeowner responsibilities and the HOA responsibilities that are defined by law. And there's really 2 budgets. There's the reserve budget, which is for assets that depreciate and need to be fixed in the future. And then there's the operating budget, which covers the day-to-day expenses. On the reserve side, how do we know what we need to budget for the future? We hire engineers, who are experienced in this. They walk around and they study all of our assets and our infrastructure, assess what needs to be done, when it would be done, and estimate a future cost. And then it's our job to save money as we go along, so when that big expense comes up, the money's already in the bank, because we don't want to get into situations we have to borrow money to maintain our own infrastructure, or God forbid, assist the owners, who knows how much, in order to do it. So so those goals are laid out for 30 years in the future. There's a line for every year. The board then looks at what's scheduled for this year and says, okay, we already did this last year, that's off, or maybe something in the future is deteriorating and add it in. But then they tell the finance committee, this is what we're going to take out of the reserves this year to pay for those ongoing expenses. And that becomes the reserve budget, ultimately helps determine what all of us pay. On the other side is the operating budget. In the operating budget, we use what is the cost of our contracts, what's our historical and current spending for all the line items we have, what's resident input, what are they interested in, and what are the goals and priorities of the board, not just for the residents, but selling us as an attractive community for people who might want to live here in the future. So all those things go in, we figure out, look at the contracts, the dollar amounts, and determine the operating budget. And after that, you find out how much we all have to pay per month to get this stuff. So what are funding sources for HOAs like ourselves? 99% of it is our dues. We can get bank loans or special assessments if we need money, but the board tries to avoid that. It's not a good way to run it. And then we have a little teeny smattering of other income from capital contributions and ballroom rentals. So what does a dollar do? We did the math. A dollar times 866 units gives us $866 per month, or $10,393 per year. So any dollar up or down in what we're paying per month represents a $10,000 increase or decrease. And it can go up, it could go down. One of the things that the board is charged to do, and this, just from my past knowledge, one of the reasons why people don't like to be on boards is because we have to balance what homeowners want, what vendors are charging for what we want, and how much people are willing to pay. In any community, you may recognize a bell curve here. At your left, those are the people who really don't care. They don't have a vested interest in what the services are. They like it here, they live here. On the right-hand side, from where you're sitting, are people who are passionate about their interest or their disinterest in anything that might happen. And what this is really saying is that at any given time, we're going to have people who don't care, a few people who are unhappy, and most of the rest of us are getting along just fine in our neighborhood because we like each other. So what are our spending categories? There's the annual budget, day-to-day operations. And then there are three other funds that we have. One is the capital improvement fund. This is for new projects. Let's say we outgrew some of our space and we had to add a building in order to function. That would have to come out of new funds. It wouldn't be a reserve fund or an operating fund. We'd have to fund it some other way. And this capital improvement fund has been established to help look at some of those future but as yet undetermined ethereal costs we may have. Last year, you may remember, they created the contingency fund to fund emergencies because Irma was through here and did some stuff, and they decided, you know, we better plan for this. So it shows us a different line, separate line item on your numbers right now, but next year it will be titled a reserve fund just to clean up the language a little bit. I might interject at this point too, if you're looking at prior year's budgets, you're not going to be able to go line for line because they've changed and rearranged it to make more sense. So what are on the reserve budget? That was the left-hand side of the screen. What are we planning on spending to put into the funds for the coming year. It's $36,000 for capital improvement, $161 plus for the contingency fund, and $210,000 for the reserve pool funds, which is a total of $407,000. What has happened is the reserve funds are less than was funded last year, but the contingency has gone up. Now, we decided to do some analytics on the budget to see what are we spending on. Now, can you read that in the back? Okay. What you're looking at is the top 4 spending categories in our budget. Wouldn't come to surprise to anybody here that landscaping, anything and everything to do with landscaping costs us over $1 million a year. Next comes community management. Our services from doing reports and handling our finances to the people who work here comes in at slightly more than $500,000. Our utilities are $250,000. And then finally, our security gatehouse staffing comes in as the 4th next largest spending category. And all those things add up to over $2 million, or almost 70% of the budget. And you can see if you're looking at that, there's not a lot of wiggle room to do other things because there's not much left. And then when you add in the cost of that mandatory reserve fund, which is the $407,000 we just talked about, that's 82% of the budget, $2.5 million, leaving about $500,000 to do everything else. So, the challenge to the board, this is a relatively new board, only been in existence a few years, but we want to create a financially sound community. It's important. If we're not, people can't get mortgages to buy in here. And then people here can't sell their houses. So it's important that we maintain good finances, maintaining adequate reserves, and being able to do the repair and refurbishing of mid-range needs like replacing awnings when they blow over and stuff like that. So next year, second quarter, we'll be doing a new 30-year reserve funding so that we stay current with what needs to be done community-wise. And the goal for the board is to complete a review of all financial and infrastructure studies every 2 years. This is the important page. Summer? Okay. Bottom line of this page. Is it okay? Okay. Says, no matter what type of unit you're in, next year you're paying $4 more per month. I didn't hear a reaction. They must have all known that already and don't care. Okay. But I do want to say it was the board and the committee were actively to keep this number low because we know the last 2 years you got major hits that would create a lot of difficulty. And if you look at the numbers, the dues went up by 1.4%, as did our expenses. So all we're doing is paying for what we anticipate the increases will be. This one just says how much money we get in total. So how we budget with single units, 2 units, and 4-unit villas. The common expenses and the common reserves are spread evenly among those 3 categories of housing. What is different is unit expenses. Villas and the villas get painted, single-family homes don't. Single-family homes get more landscaping because they're in bigger properties. The 4-unit villas have hardly any landscaping surrounding them. So that's how that gets split, and it adds up so that single units are $310, 2 units are $285, and 4-unit villas are $478. $278. Now, again, this is going to be a slide that you're not going to be able to see from back there. But Gary did a lot of work trying to figure out where do we stand compared to similar kind of communities in this neighborhood. And we looked at 3 different Mirror Bay communities, Waterset and Valencia Lakes in Covington Park. And South Shore Falls is right here in the middle because they're ranked according to HOA fee. But then some of those police people have CDD fees to add on to them. So it changes the rank order at the end, and whoops. If we were to do the rank order, we would drop down to here, next lowest. Now notice the 2 asterisks by Waterset and Covington Park. Those communities are totally responsible for all their own landscaping, flower beds, fertilization, and everything. If they were getting that paid for the community, we would actually be the lowest in terms of homeowner fees. So it kind of helps to know that. We know that we're kind of where we should be. We're in an attractive position for people who might want to move here. So what is the total amount of revenue we're predicting? And I'm going to go through these slides faster, just announcing some changes in the different categories. So our budget for next year is going up by almost $44,000, which is 1.4%. And we didn't really design that number. That's how the number flows, but it tells us we were doing the job well because they matched at the end. Administrative expenses coming down by almost $4,000. We're not spending as much this year as we thought we had. So next following year budget is based on that. Insurance going down by $2,000. We had Jason to thank for that. He managed to negotiate lower insurance rates with better coverage. So we're better on 2 counts on that one. All the contracted services, which add up to $1.08 million, are going up by about $90,000. There is some just increased costs. There is plans, hopefully, to get another person on the management staff to help out with some of our administrative needs that are getting pushed to the back of the room, and we don't need to have that. Landscaping is aggressive again in terms of replacing landscaping that's been around growing for 15 years. They'll uptake in security because we've added the patrols. And then pond maintenance is going to be a challenge too. Clubhouse and lifestyle is increased by $2,400. That's 4.7%. Repairs and maintenance are at $407,000. That's an increase. And one of the things, and I'm sure Wayne will talk about this, is the plans to use the settlement money are earmarking for roads and irrigation. But that's not going to get started until later in the year, and we still have to fund the day-to-day repairs to the irrigation system that will still have to be done before we replace everything. Utilities is going up by $7,000. That's primarily because we under budgeted this year what we're actually spending, so this new number, almost $250,000, reflects what we're actually spending this year. So in total, in terms of just the common, this shows what the common expenses plus the unit expenses, what it adds up to. It's another $125,000 over what we had last year. The proposed 220 reserve and contingency fund, I wasn't sure why Gary put this in, but what I decided to do was tell you what we're actually planning to do with reserve funds this year. Or some of the things that we have in mind for that. And of course, I can't find the page. The actual amount that is budgeted to be spent for the whole long list that we looked at was about $390,000, of which $165,000 is for the next year's painting of villas. So that's a big piece of it. And the other thing covers all the things like sidewalk repairs and storm drainage problems, and non-glamorous stuff that has to be done in order to maintain an attractive community. So we're proposing to put in 407,000, and we're going to be taking out less money than we are. And we've already talked about this number before. For the record, the homes in this community, not the infrastructure, not the buildings we're in, have a valuation of over $200 million, so that's a pretty impressive number. So, that's my presentation. I think we've made progress in terms of our goals. Thank you. And then take questions? Okay.
Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you, Beverly. As Beverly has explained, there's an intersection between our desire for goods and services and our willingness and our ability to pay for them. Your Finance Committee, other community committees, Board, and Capital Management were guided by where we see that intersection as we prepare the budget. As you know, we have received an infusion of about $490,000 to be used to offset the running repairs and replacement of our infrastructure. 2020 will be the third year in our quest to build a bridge to a sound financial future. And it looks like we are now on that bridge, steadily making progress towards our goal. We are keenly aware of the costs that the owners have absorbed in getting to where we are today. Legal fees alone have amounted to over $150,000 in the recent years. With year-end reserves, contingency funds, including the above, approaching $2 million, we felt it prudent to lessen the burden placed on getting the reserves and contingency funds adequately funded. Make no mistake, we're not out of the woods yet. With irrigation repairs and asphalt repairs estimated to cost almost $1 million over the next few years, we must be careful. Before we vote on the 2020 proposed budget, we'll take budget questions from the floor. Please limit your questions to one, and please come up to the microphone. Following our vote on the budget, we will take up several other important matters. I'd like to especially thank Sarah, Maggie, Gary, and Beverly for all their countless hours they have devoted to the development of this budget. And also a reminder, with your budget notice, you got this nice envelope that's suitable for making a donation to the holiday fund for our staff. Please do so. It's in the box outside the office, and Sarah handles all those donations privately. So thank you very much. Yeah, cash is not cash is a problem. Checks, Rolex watches, things like that. Okay. Any questions? We had 2 seminars and answered a